The origins for the names of people are usually tied to something significant like love, hope, strength, or something spiritual. However, there are tons of words, concepts, and inventions named after the people that created them. Here are 5 things named after the creators. Pasta. One of the key staples in my life that's easy to cook, has many delicious variations, and doesn't break the bank. Almost everybody loves pasta, especially the classic fettuccine Alfredo. This creation goes back to 1908 when the inventor Alfredo Di Lelio's wife had given birth to their firstborn son. She wasn't eating much, so Alfredo, in his concern to make sure his wife had enough nutrients to regain her strength, made her something special. He tossed together fettuccine pasta with butter and fresh Parmesan to create a worldwide sensation that is still adored over a century later. She loved it so much that she suggested to put it on the menu in their restaurant. Truly the most romantic pasta. So romantic that 2 famous actors that had eaten at his restaurant on their honeymoon in 1927 had to give him fancy gold engraved tableware. He even named his restaurant Alfredo in 1914. Have you ever been ice skating before and seen those machines that clean the ice? Well, it turns out there's a name for those things. They're called a Zamboni. Its conception dates all the way back to the 1940s, created by a man named Frank Zamboni. He'd had a lifetime of working with ice and cutting ice blocks, so, long story short, he eventually had to switch career paths. Refrigeration capabilities becoming more easily accessible put him out of his original job and led him to working at ice rinks. Before his invention, it took 3 or 4 workers to shave the surface of ice rinks, scoop the shavings up, pour water on the surface, and squeegee the dirty water away. Simply put, it took too much time and effort to clean his 20,000 square foot ice rinks, and we all know we'd rather be out on that rink absolutely shredding. After multiple prototypes, he finally mastered his Model A Zamboni ice resurfacer, which got him his first patent. Finally, one machine that does all the necessary work to properly resurface the entire rink. Then there was this Olympic skater that was crazy about this idea and needed to have one. The Zamboni snowball started to roll. Everyone was jealous of how much more time he had to shred the ice than them, so of course it was a success. The invention even went down in the US Hockey Hall of Fame. Some words have been named after people. The word mesmerize dates back to the 18th century, created from a physicist by the name of Franz Anton Mesmer. He was born in Germany, graduated from the University of Vienna in 1766, and established a clinic in Paris where he popularized his methods. He theorized that there was an invisible fluid from the stars that flowed through bodies. He called it animal magnetic fluid, and we can't detect it using our 5 senses, much like magnetism. He had a 6th sense for these sorts of things, or so people believed through his flamboyant style of experimental work practices. Apparently, according to him, illnesses are caused by a blockage of this animal magnetism fluid, which he could remedy by touching his patients? His practices were investigated by 2 commissions, and the first display of his theory was met with outright laughter. Members of the commission attributed his work to an overly active imagination rather than a physical fluid. Despite this, his work, known as mesmerism, continued to thrive, and we still use the word today. Eventually, his legacy contributed to the developments in hypnotism and psychology. Hot tubs are a luxurious way to unwind after another soul-crushing week. Hot tub is just a generic name for the invention, though. The original creation and brand we all know is called the jacuzzi. It was first invented by an Italian man named Candido Jacuzzi. Him and his family started a business together in 1915, originally because of the superior aircraft propeller designed by Candido's brother. His brother's contracts with the US and Russian military funded the family company, and they began selling agricultural pumps and other mundane items. Eventually, spa pumps were adapted with custom-designed fiberglass, introducing the first jacuzzi. This whirlpool spa was at first conceptualized and intended for medical purposes. Jacuzzi's 15-month-old son was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and needed hydrotherapy treatment to alleviate the painful inflammatory condition. Realizing how helpful his invention was for his son's health, he decided to market his work in his family-owned company. It wasn't long before it became a sought-after luxury item for celebrities, and this family name became a well-known brand and household word. It's always been funny to me when people express their disdain towards a multi-billion-dollar company by purchasing their products just to record themselves destroying or burning it. Yeah, you really showed them by giving them more business and free advertising? Boycotting in this way is ridiculous, and much like recording yourself pouring out drinks you bought or burning a brand new pair of shoes, the origins of the word boycotting are just as wild. During the 1800s, there is a man named Charles Boycott who was a terrible landlord. He was especially cruel and unreasonable, so I can see where all the landlords I've had got their inspiration from. Anyway, the Irish farmers that lived on his land were treated unfairly, expected to pay extortionate rents, and evicted during bad harvests. Since this Charles guy sucked so much, everyone around him disliked him. The Irish Land League advocated for passive resistance against unreasonable landlords, which sparked tenants to take action. Charles Boycott's tenants and laborers started to shun him when he refused to ease up on rent prices while people were struggling. Workers left, laborers stopped working, and local tradesmen refused to serve him. Since he was such a desperate crybaby, he decided to hire English soldiers, but his mistreatment towards them turned the soldiers sympathetic to the mistreated locals. He ended up disgracefully fleeing to England with his tail between his legs. Ever since then, the term boycotting was coined to describe the ostracizing of individuals like Charles Boycott. Let me know what you think about these things named after people in the comments. Since I only covered 5 in this video, let me know what some of your favorites are that I didn't mention. Check out some of my other videos and subscribe for more.